This is the Northwest Tank Line Super Bowl show coming to you from Radio Row at Mandalay Bay, Las Vegas. Of course, Super Bowl LVIII. It's the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Our 23rd appearance at this event. I think Solomon Wilcots probably somewhere like about 35, 32. He's our next guest, along with Dr. Chad Hanson, who is the head team physician for the Raiders. We'll get into what they're talking about in a sec. But, Solly, what is this for you? It's got to be up there.
Oh, it is up there. Obviously came here as a player, but just on Radio Row as a working member of the media, yeah, I lost count, but I think we're right around 25, somewhere around there, yeah.
25.
Yeah,
the old days of ESPN, Sunday Night Football.
And
I say this every year. For me, all time, the chemistry with that crew was the best.
And it was fun.
Yeah.
And we had the great Fred Gaudelli, who's still out there doing great work, right, building networks. He was our producer, clearly one of the best in the business, right? And then obviously Mike Patrick, Joe Theismann, Paul McGuire. They were great to me as a young, broadcaster. I was a sideline reporter, and man, they weren't afraid to come to me and turn the broadcast over to me for my 10-second hit.
Hey, but those 10 seconds, you look damn good on the sidelines. Best dressed sideline reporter ever.
Thank
you.
He
is Solomon Wilcots, of course, for many years with CBS Sports, currently with NFL on Sirius, doing part of their work there. Dr. Chad Hanson is also our guest, as we mentioned, the Raiders head team physician. They're here talking about MACI, which is a knee cartilage repair using your own cells. It's done by a company called Vericel. I'll start off with you, Dr. Hanson.
Great.
Tell us a little bit about this, and you're talking to somebody who's on the docket for not one but 2 knee replacements.
So the MACI procedure helps to correct cartilage defects in patients and hopefully prevent the ultimate bone-on-bone scenario where you do need replacement. And so we're harnessing your own cartilage cells to help repair that area and fill in the defect.
So basically, if I got into the DeLorean, go back about 10, 15 years, talk to you. Actually, the technology might not have been available.
But if you were early stage, it could help you out.
That was just about to say. So somebody who's probably just getting into that stage where, you're starting to deal with arthritis and you're losing cartilage, this is a boon for you.
Yeah, you want to try to catch it at that injury stage and not at the wear and tear stage where the surrounding cartilage is also damaged. So think of a brand new street with a missing manhole cover versus a worn down road that needs to be completely repaved.
It's interesting when you think about knees and knee surgery, guys, how far the technology has come, right? I mean, now you get scoped. You walk out within, I remember being scoped and I was playing racquetball in 2 weeks, right? I mean, and then you always hear the stories of these great athletes. And for us, probably the best example is Bobby Orr, the legendary Boston Bruin hockey player. And, he'd go in and they basically take all the cartilage out, right? Like, I mean, it was almost primitive what they did back then. And you'd see these pictures of a guy getting knee surgery today, probably a scope. Back then he was in a cast for like 3 weeks. Right? I mean, it's amazing how far it's come in the span of 40, 50 years.
Yeah, the technology has definitely improved, and our understanding of the long-term ramifications for taking out cartilage and taking out meniscus is also much better understood.
So is this available in Canada as well? Can people, or do they have to come to the States to get this treatment?
That's a great question. We know that it's covered by almost all insurance companies, and so this is well within the mainstream possibility, and there are MACI experts all around the country.
Solomon, you must be amazed when you look at the advances in medicine from when you played, and with all due respect, we're similar vintage, right?
Yes,
I mean, you remember the day, like taping aspirin to it, you're fine.
Yeah,
and now you look at what they're doing with equipment, what they're doing with treatment, what they're doing with medicine. It's mind-boggling.
Sports medicine has been a phenomenal growth in that space when it comes to technology. And we always say that athletes, and especially football players, we help move modern medicine forward, particularly in terms of orthopedic medicine. For instance, if you tell a football player, hey, we don't know if this will work, but we think it might improve or help you get back to playing. And you know what the football player, the athlete's going to say? Okay, I'll try it. We'll do anything. And you know this to stay in the game. We'll do anything. And we were talking about surgery, and you may have heard of it, when it comes to pitchers, right? Tommy John surgery.
Yep.
right? There was a time when if you blown out that ulnar tendon, you were done. You never played again. And then Dr. Job says to Tommy John, we don't know if this will work, but we think it can get you back to pitching. Not only did it get him back, he went on to pitch another 14 seasons in Major League Baseball.
Ironically enough, the pitcher with the most wins after having Tommy John surgery is
Tommy John.
And you
right.
you hear stories now, guys, where guys, though, like as you mentioned, Solly, it was a career ender before. And now guys will have not one but two Tommy John surgeries during the course of the career, and they'll come back, right? So, Dr. Chad Hanson is our guest, Raiders team physician. Solomon Wilcots, of course, with Sirius XM Radio. Okay, Doc, tell me, what's going on with my beloved Raiders? Come on, you got to help me out here. I mean, I go back to the days of Kenny the Snake Stabler and Freddie Bolitnikov. I mean, you're on the sidelines every game. All kidding aside, I imagine everybody in that organization is going to be jacked about having Antonio Pierce as the head coach.
That's what I was going to say. We're very excited about AP. The energy that he brings to the entire team, the entire organization is palpable, and we rallied behind him, and we're very, very excited about the future of the Raiders.
Solly, is there hope for my Raiders next year?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they'll continue to build and continue to grow. You love the buy-in by guys like Max Crosby, right? Devontae Adams. These are really good players, and they found a leader that they can get behind. They're back to running the football and playing in a style of play that we're accustomed to seeing with the Raiders. They do need to add to the talent at the quarterback position and then even around the quarterback and continue to play. I think bringing back Patrick Graham as the defensive coordinator, I think he's been great for this organization. They have a core group of players that I think you can build around and they can get to winning. Now, think about this. They've got to go up against teams like the Kansas City Chiefs. They got to go up against, and that team, we already know what they're about. Now, Jim Harbaugh has shown up with the Chargers, and we know what kind of style of play. Everywhere he's gone, he's won games. So just when you think you've gotten better, boy, you look around the landscape of other teams within your division and say, oh, my God, we got to get even better than that.
What do you think happens on Sunday? And before we get to that, actually, I will throw this to you because you know, former DB with the Bengals. Is Kansas City's secondary a story that people aren't talking enough about?
Yeah, I think you're right. I talked about L'Jarius Sneed earlier today, just how good he is and maybe how we don't talk about him enough. And I think Justin Reed and Mike Edwards, the two safeties in this group, the way that they come out and they play, they don't have a high volume of interceptions, and I think maybe, and even with Trent McDuffie, they just play good football. They don't get beat and let you throw the ball over their head. They tackle very well. They make plays at the most critical times in games. But yet, when you have a secondary that has only 8 interceptions, maybe they don't jump out at you, but they don't give up these big plays. They know how to keep you out of the end zone, and they know how to turn you over. And so, no, I think it's a really good secondary. They haven't distinguished themselves as being great because you've had a lot of changing parts back there, but they're good enough to get back to a Super Bowl.
There's always storylines heading into games, narratives, questions. What are some of the questions you want to see answered come Sunday?
Wow, I think the main one is how will Brock Purdy compete against a great quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, who you know is going to score. And as he starts to rack up points against a defense with San Francisco that really struggles to stop the run, can Brock Purdy lead his offense and answer? Can they take a lead in a game against the Kansas City Chiefs and make the Chiefs play from behind? Can you keep that lead and keep the pressure on them? To me, that's what great quarterbacks do. I like Brock Purdy. I'm not in that class of guys that tries to find out what's wrong with him. I like all the things about him that are right.
Yeah, and, you know, it's interesting when you look at Purdy because, you know, he's the last pick in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah.
But, you know, I heard Greg Cosell from NFL Fields talk about this. He said one of the things about Purdy that you couldn't really judge at the college level, and one of the reasons he's had success in the NFL level is ability to read, number one. And the other thing, too, is anticipate. And when I'm talking about anticipating making that throw before the receiver even makes his break. And you know the expression, Solomon, there's NFL open, there's Alabama open, right? It's easy to make that throw when you're Alabama open when you got 4 yards of separation.
Yeah.
Different thing when you've got to throw that ball in a size of a breadbasket before your receivers even made a cut.
There's no doubt, and he's proven that. The 4,200 passing yards that he had this year, that's a franchise record.
Yeah.
I mean, he's thrown for more yards in a single season than Joe Montana did with the San Francisco
Different game,
49ers.
right? In terms of the
Steve Young.
yeah.
But they threw
But
it
still,
a lot.
yeah.
They threw it a lot. And they threw it to a pretty good receiver, by the way, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this is what you're seeing from him, functioning at a very high level. And I think what you talked about is anticipation. He goes through his progression as well as any quarterback in our league. He finds a third or fourth guy in the rotation and gets the ball out quickly and accurately, but he does it by anticipating.
Guys, great stuff. Thanks for stopping by. Macy, of course, Macy Knee Cartilage Repair using your own cells. It is produced by Vericel. If people want more info, website, phone numbers, anything like that people can check it out at?
Macy.com.
Macy.com.
MACI.com. You'll even find if you can get a doctor in your area, including Canada. You'll be able to find wherever the doctors are who are providing this kind of treatment. You can find them wherever they are by going to the website.
Guys, great stuff. Thanks for stopping by.
Mo, you're the best, my friend.